And yet someone like him comes along, Terrence Howard, saying he's created this thing that's going to go out into space and collect stardust and come back, and like all of these inventions aren't already here. Like we don't already know that the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers or whoever it was in 1930, they bought out the medical institutes to make sure that all of the medicine would keep you addicted to that tablet, would keep you always in your lower chakras. So when you know these things, and you know that Terrence knows these things, trying to act like you're the hero and the new Christ and the savior, it's so laughable.
So, Indigo Child, tell me about your name. Where's that from? Tell me more about you. What do you do?
So I was actually born Aaron. Aaron Miller was my actual name. My black side of my family were Miller, and the more I grew up, the more I developed my own self-identity. It very quickly was clear to me that Miller was a slave trade. It was a trade that was given to my family. And when I was about 16 years old, I was at my aunt's house, and there was a plumber, and the plumber was in the house, and he was just doing the plumbing, just a really average, what you would assume, quote unquote, 3D man, you know. Anyway, I was 15. I was talking to all of my cousins, and he pulled me to the side, and he said, "I need to talk to you. There's something different about you." And he pulled me outside onto the balcony, and he said, "You need to know that you're an indigo child. I've been hearing what you're talking, and no one speaks like you." And then he said to me, "Do you mind coming to my van?" And then luckily he wasn't a dodgy person. I went to his van with him. And he pulled out a PDF, and the PDF was called How to Astral Project. And he was writing a manual himself on how to astral project. This is, like I said, just a plumber that was like, my aunt didn't know him. He was just hired as a tradesman. And he asked me at 15 to be the first person to read the manuscript to his book on how to astral project. And I'll be honest, about 60% of it was just blank pages where you just write in your dreams and you analyze a lot of stuff. But from that day, all of my family started calling me Indigo. And I'm 30 now, so that's half of my life. I've been basically called Indigo or Indy. People close to me would call me Indy. And it's something which, for me, and I'm sure we'll discuss this later, but my birth name, Aaron Miller, to me represents the straw man. It represents the birth certificate. It represents the dead corporation. And so Indigo is my spiritual, what I would consider my eternal name. And I'm quite very close friends with someone. I'm sure you both know KRS-One, the rapper, the guy who does the song "Whoop Whoop" is the sound of the police. So his son lives in the United Kingdom. He's one of my best friends here, and I read a signed book by KRS-One, and it was given to me, and I think it's called Rudimentals. But KRS-One, who's I believe a spiritual leader of the streets and people from that vibration, he basically says it's very important to have your own spiritual name for yourself. Because it's you got your name that your parents named you, but like, how do you identify? And so that's why I'm Indigo, and my music name is Indigo Child with 2 O's.
Okay, awesome. And I'm really curious, are you still in contact with the guy that came into your house?
Of course, it was just it was a 5-minute moment, and that was it. I've never seen him again. It was as it is, it was divine intervention. All I know is his name was Steve, and he was a plumber, and it's this white guy, and it set me on the course of recognizing and understanding that I was different to everyone else. Not that, like, not in an egoic way or a hierarchical way, but just the people I was talking to weren't saying the same things, and that's why I guess he pulled me to the side.
Awesome. I mean, that's how it works. Normally, it's like that one moment. That's all you needed,
Yeah.
And that kind of like branched you off into something else, and you started learning about esoterics and spirituality and things like that. So
exactly.
Tell me, actually, Chris, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, just real quick, just on what Indigo shared. That's so beautiful and so powerful. That moment, and to be honest, he could have been a future version, a parallel life version of you. We can really get into something like that because those things really do happen. But I'm so glad that you led with that story, because I think a lot of people can relate to that. There was this one moment in my life whenever something happened, and then boom, I am who I am because of that 5 minutes. I remember whenever I came across the Indigo kid stuff as well. So it's really cool, the parallels here. So thank you for sharing that, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
And then, so I'm Chris, and much like Brother Indigo, KRYS is not the governmental legal fiction name. KRYS is my spiritual name. It's my name that I gave to myself through meditation.
Wow.
There's a second part of that, Chris Ra Eshel. But I'm kind of just going by Chris. And it's really funny how you mentioned the straw man and everything, because that's a big portion of the work that I do, is helping people understand the difference between who they really are and that fictitious entity that is used to really siphon the energy their whole life.
Wow.
Yeah, but the founder of Cosmic Frequency, trustee of Republic of Eternal Nations. I'm a noeticist, and I'm a soul guide and an ether
What was
physicist.
that
So
first
that's my
word? I'm a what?
noeticist.
Okay. Never heard of that.
Noeticist. Noetics. I know. Yeah, look it up. So I'm gonna let you have a exciting journey with that one. But yeah, noetics is so important. It's important to have a noetic mind,
Okay.
to be able to think for yourself and process reality without the filters of the
Mm,
contemporary world
okay.
as the center point. So
I've
yeah.
never heard of straw man before.
Oh, Tanisha, we are gonna have a lot. That's
We're learning
yeah.
today. Yeah.
We gotta dive into that. We're gonna do a whole episode on that.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll introduce myself as well. And this is kind of going to go into Indigo Child's question he asked me before you joined Chris. Basically, I am helping Chris as his assistant right now, and we're doing a lot of different things. I won't go into the details, but I call myself Dreamwalker because I am extremely connected to my dreams. I have started to realize that they're not just dreams, they're actually, it's reality. You know, it's us living our true life, our true, I don't know, beings in a way. And I'm still trying to unpack exactly why I call myself a dream walker. And I'm waiting for the inspiration and, you know, more information. But in the meantime, that's what I call myself.
I absolutely love that. And I'm really connected to my dreams recently. I have to have like a book near my bed because if I don't catch it in the first 5 minutes, it's gone. And I think it's supposed to
gone.
be that way, you know, so that we're not bringing in that fourth dimension or whatever dimension people think it is into this reality too much. But as you can see, I'm a smoker, and when I take time off of smoking, the dreams just go wild. Like so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dream World is fun, and that's a beautiful name that you go by. And I'm excited for the day that you really discover the power and the potency of Dreamwalker.
Yeah, me
So
too.
that'll
Me
be fun.
too. It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Can I
So,
ask how you
all
both
right.
know each other before we continue?
Yeah. You want to tell them?
Sure. Yeah. So a couple months ago, I was sitting in meditation, and I knew I wanted to be a speaker and get up and talk to people and get into the nuances of reality. And came out of the meditation and heard the words Conscious Expo, and I was like, oh, I don't know what that is. Went online, researched Conscious Life Expo, and there was this huge expo going on in LA. And I reached out to them to see if they had a space for me to speak. And then, ironically, they had reached out to me almost down to the minute on Instagram.
Wow.
So, talk about pulling from the dream space and higher ethers and the astral. That's how that happened. So
Wow.
at that event, um, actually, prelude to that, Tanisha had reached out to me, just one of the random messages that I get on Instagram, and I can't get to all of them, but I got to hers, and there was this vibration. She was just kind of like, "Hey, so I'm doing this work, and I'm looking to connect with people and do interviews. I see you're going to the expo. Would love to connect." And I was like, "We'll see." I was like, "There's gonna be
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of people. How am I ever gonna run into you?" But then, go ahead, T. So what happened once we?
So I have this thing where I love having deep conversations and I ask a lot of questions. Unfortunately, not everyone's open to talking about why they feel the way they feel
Mm,
all the time.
mm.
So my excuse is by interviewing people. So I'm
Yep.
constantly inviting people into interviews. So I was like scrolling through Instagram looking for someone to talk to.
Wow. Wow.
And I ran into, yeah, Chris's profile. And I was like, let me just randomly message him. I saw that he's going to the Conscious Life Expo. I'm planning on going. I don't have the money, but I'm
Oh,
gonna
all
go.
right.
Yeah, I wasn't even sure if I was going to go or not. And then I said that, and you were just like, you said you will be there or something like that. Just something
Mhm.
very, just reminding me to manifest it.
Mm.
Right.
So turns out I actually made it. And then we kept running into each other. And I'm over here like with my phone, like interview now. How about
And I was
now?
like, hold on.
Like maybe later, calm down.
Wow.
But it was funny because I remember telling you if the frequencies align, because I was like, in my mind, I was like, I had never been to a big expo like that, so it's like if I run into this random person
Yeah.
reaching out to me on Instagram,
Mm.
then there's something really magical there.
Yep.
She was actually, I think, one of the very first people that I ran into.
Wow. I mean,
So it was like,
yeah.
Yeah.
The
and I was
ancestors
like, wait,
needed it. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, wait, I know. And it was this moment of like, wow, okay. So just things like that, you can't explain away other than going into a different state of consciousness to make sense of it. So that's kind of how, yeah, it
Wow.
happened. And now cosmic frequency is being brought forth through the hard work that she's putting in and the insights that are coming through, in my meditation. So, yeah.
Okay, incredible. Wow. Well, we're really in the flow of the ether tonight then. It's something higher than us guiding all of this, it seems. Long before we was not even born. So let's enjoy it.
Yeah.
Let's enjoy
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Okay. So the whole reason why we met today. Now this interview but this meeting that we're having right now isn't solely about Terrence Howard, but we're going to use that as a perfect example because of the recent interview we had with Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's speaking about a lot of high-level things, a lot of metaphysical things. Have both of you guys watched the complete interview? It's like 3 hours long.
I never watched the complete thing. I just watched bits and bobs and I knew enough.
Okay. Chris too, yeah. I kept sending him the video, like, watch this video. And he's like, nah.
Like, 3 hours, man, doing this work, 3 hours to do something. I'm like, I got to really be...
Yeah.
I might as well go watch a Marvel movie.
I know.
I watch everything on ×2 speed as well, so it would have only took an hour and a half.
Okay.
I wasn't going to give that Psyop an hour and a half of my time. I just watched the start, the beginning, and the end, and I was like, I see what they're doing here. They tried it.
Okay.
Tell me about that. What do you mean by Psyop? What do you mean?
Yeah.
So for me, a psyop is a psychological operation. So some kind of ploy to distract us, or some kind of ploy to really engage us in something which seems benevolent and spiritual and trusting, but it's just 0.01% of it's not right. And for me, that means the presence of the whole cosmos isn't there. That cosmic frequency isn't there. It's a manipulation, and I can only assume we're going to go into it a lot, but everything that he said, nothing impressed me. And I've literally I'm like you, Tanisha. I love to interview people. I've interviewed the real scientists that have really done the things he's claiming, and most of them have had the most awful life. They don't get more than 5 views on a YouTube video, and their life is constantly in danger. They're scared to drive on motorways if their brakes have been broken or something. And then someone like this comes along with all shiny lights. And like, the fact he's an actor is just wild to me, that people don't want to admit that because he's an actor, he has the ability to bamboozle you. I like Will Smith. Look at everything coming out about Will Smith right now, but I loved Will Smith when I was younger. Look at Pursuit of Happiness. That will get me in tears, but that's not the same Will Smith that was slapping Chris Rock and trying to distract us with all of that boule Freemason stuff. So anyway, yeah, a psyop to me is it's a distraction. And right now in this world, with World War III round the corner, with the elections coming up, with all of this that's happening, something like this is just it's just fairy dust. It's just something to confuse us, really. And also, it's important to say, not to confuse the people that are really dull. It's to confuse the people that are really active, like this, like the sleeping lions, the ones that really could walk the path of bringing out their Buddhahood. They give us these, what I would consider antichrists, actually.
Wow. Yeah, that was a lot. I mean, like, I have so many questions. So going back to your friends, the ones that are the real scientists, I'm not going to ask you to name them at all, but I would love to know.
Harry Rhoades, I'll name him straight. Harry Rhoades, Rhodes. And I definitely recommend people going onto his website. It's called onlyresultscount.com. I don't get paid or nothing. This is because I genuinely believe in what he's doing. First of all, for instance, he's restructuring water and then remineralizing it with negative ions. These kind of basic fundamental things that people need to be doing, considering how much water is in our body. I'm personally a big believer. If someone's spending £4,000 or £5,000 on some kind of like Japanese machine which cleanses your water and re-energizes it, I don't believe that is what ordinary people need. It's not fair that someone who's a single mom on the fourth floor of a council estate who has no money, the only way that they believe that they can have clean water is by spending thousands of pounds in this network marketing scheme. I'm not saying that. You agree? Okay, good. I'm not saying that water isn't powerful, but I am saying for £60 of a distiller, you'll do just the same thing. Like, water for me has to be distilled. But anyway, back to Harry. He's someone that he claims that he's working with the actual bloodline of Nikola Tesla to this day. So he's working on the ether. He's working on like the 369 and certain things like this, which is what everything that Terrence was talking about. He banged on about 369 all the time. And yeah, his life, like, I'm surprised he's alive still. Everything is self-funded. Life is incredibly difficult. He knows the person that created the hydrogen car, so the water car. That person died. He's created something which is it incinerates everything, even toxic waste and radiation. So he's got a small machine which literally there'll be no more landfills on the planet. There'll be no more radiation and nuclear fallout. Any of this stuff, there'll like literally waste and sewage. It would all be basically turned into ash, and all of the basic elements it's separated. These incredible inventions have been invented over 50 years ago, and yet someone like him comes along, Terrence Howard, saying he's created this thing that's going to go out into space and collect stardust and come back, and like all of these inventions aren't already here. Like we don't already know that the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers or whoever it was in 1930, they bought out the medical institutes to make sure that all of the medicine would keep you addicted to that tablet, would keep you always in your lower chakras. Like, so when you know these things, and you know that Terrence knows these things, trying to act like you're the hero and the new Christ and the savior, it's so laughable to me. And I don't mean that to disrespect anyone that was bamboozled by it, but just for me, it was just so like, oh, wow, I'm so grateful that my eyes are open. And we spoke about this a bit, Chris, before. I believe it's because of my awareness of what the occult on this planet is. So anyone who's moving in the spiritual world, if you're not sure, if you're not deeply aware of what the occult is, you're going to be manipulated so much, unfortunately, because the occult are who are bringing out these scientists, this new age paradigms and all the religions and stuff. So you need to know the occult. You really need to have a deep understanding of your own darkness as well. Before you try and walk in the spiritual world.
Beautiful. Yeah, that was powerful.
Yeah, I think going back to the water car, I was just looking up trying to figure out the name of the guy. I know he is dead, and I know that there's a lot of conspiracy around his death.
Yeah.
And do you remember his name, by the way? Because I came up with like a couple of different people.
There's been a couple people.
That's the thing, There's a few. There's been about 3 or 4 people that individually came to the same conclusion of how to make a car run on water.
And on that point, it's because when you do get to a certain point of consciousness, you can pull information from the ethers. You literally can. If you sit long enough, if your mind is generally still, you will get ideas that other people have thought. And that's because we share a collective field, right? There's a lot of talk about people learning telepathy. We have been every human being is telepathic. The difference is having the awareness of what that looks like in every.
Oh. We'll wait for him to come back in.
It looks like he may have had a bit of a bad signal there. Maybe we can telepathically talk to him right now. Yeah, we're vibrating high enough.
That'd be perfect, right? We don't have to deal with programs like this. There he is.
There
you go.
Bro, you're back.
They were like, you know what? You're saying too much. Click.
Well, and here's that didn't interrupt the podcast at all, did it?
No, it's still recorded.
No, it's still recording.
Okay, good.
And no, I will not edit that out.
Good. And here's the thing, and this is why it's important for us to do things like this, because when they know that we know and we don't show fear of it, then they know, okay, they know who they are.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them shake in their boots, because a soul and a person, a human being who knows who and what they are, you can shut off and you can do whatever but at the end of the day, we are the consciousness that is making this thing go. So they need us. Wow. And that's why the Terrence Howard thing popped out. I know we were talking about the water car, but the reason that the Terrence Howard thing is important now to focus on and pay attention to is because of that fact that people like Tanisha, Indigo, and others we're at the precipice of a monumental cosmic shift. It's actually already happening. And so the system needs to dress up and put all of its makeup on and get its high heels and try to be as fancy as possible.
Wow.
Right? In order to catch the attention of the ones who actually can make a change, who can actually make a difference. And so that's why they have to make it so close to people like your friend Harry Rhoades. They have to make it that close because it's that level of consciousness that they're trying to distract. The people who are looking for renewable resources, Tesla technology, that's who their target audience is right now. If we talk business-wise, the target audience is Indigo Children, Starseeds, Starwalkers, and Dreamwalkers.
Yeah.
Because those are ones that are making the show happen here. So, yeah.
So I will say this: I when I first watched the video, I watched it twice, by the way, all the way through.
You watched it 2 times? Look at you.
I was excited. That's my first emotion. I was extremely excited because I know about Terrence Howard. I know a little bit about his past. I know that he considers himself a scientist since he was 5 or whatever. Yeah, a genius, right? And I know that this is a conversation that we need to have. That's why I was excited. Whether I agree with him or not, I was like, people are going to start questioning and looking into the flower of life now, you know. And I do understand what you're saying, Indigo Child and Chris as well. It's just, this is the conversation we need to have. We need both sides, you know. I don't want to say the good and the bad, or the evil and, you know, whatever, but
I agree.
it's just,
I agree.
Same.
There's got to be. This is the thing with Psyops. If the person,
I love that
if the person is wise enough, they'll be able to actually transform their life from the knowledge that they're giving, the psyop. But you have to still, you just need to be aware of who you are and recognize that. Just use it as a tool. Take from it what you need.
Yes.
Because yes, there's great stuff that he's talking about. To some extent, anyway. And you can really learn a lot. Like the biggest psyop I would say in the UK is a man called Russell Brand, and he was married to Katy Perry. If you know who Katy Perry was, the artist, obviously one of the biggest witches in Hollywood. So he was married to her. And he's kind of like a low-level celebrity, but because of that marriage, he blew up. But now he's allowed to speak about the whole pandemic and speak about all the things we speak about online, but it blows up. But, but he's not giving you the critical information. So that's the difference. Terrence is not giving you that critical information, actually how to break out of the matrix. He's giving you what he's given you what people think that they really want, which is world peace and all of that, not recognizing it all starts inwardly first. And so and it's very interesting. I don't know if you agree with this, Chris or Tanisha, when you watched it, but when Terrence started the interview, he basically starts by saying, "I'm Jesus," in my opinion. I'm completely different, because he basically says, "I was born in my mum's womb, and I remember being in the womb for 6 months, to the point where I'm talking to myself saying, remember this, remember this." Now, I'm not saying that people can't remember being in the womb, but I definitely don't. Like, and the majority of people don't remember being in the womb. So I feel already there was a manipulation there. It's almost already trying to tell you, you really need to listen to what I'm about to say for the next 3 hours, because look at me. I can remember being in my mum's womb. Well, being in your mum's womb, how is that going to help with Israel and Palestine? It's all a madness. It's
you're onto something, and this is what I'll say into that. Me and another brother, who we're going to post a video here soon, Alexander, who makes these wonderful bracelets, by the way. We just did an interview on this on the whole Terrence Howard thing, and that we had to pause. We did a reaction video. We had to pause about 45 seconds to a minute into the video when he was talking about that. And it's not that people can't have memories or awareness. It's about, what is the table that's being set here for you, and what does it do?
Yes.
It immediately pulls at your heartstrings. You get emotionally invested. Yep. Oh my gosh, this guy had such an experience. And so now you are psychologically invested in whatever else comes next. Yep. And this is the thing about the occult, esoteric, ether physics, is you study the fundamentals of how the brain operates.
Yes.
You have to.
I love you, bro.
Likewise. There's a book called, I read this book, these 2 life transformational books. Tanisha, we should put these on the website. One is called Blink, and the other one is called Subliminal. The first book called Blink, it's called Blink, how your mind why your brain makes the split-second decisions in the blink of an eye. Like why it chooses left instead of right.
Wow.
Right? So the neurological networking, the processes that go into a split-second decision, there's a book about that. I read this back in college.
Wow.
And then I read a book called Subliminal, and this book was Subliminal: How Your Subconscious Mind Controls Your Everyday Behavior. Those 2 books, for me, that's what determines whether someone can think for themselves or not. Because you've gone to the extent of understanding your own makeup, your own brain, and why you do the things you do. But the thing is, if you don't have that foundation, the occult does.
Yeah, control it for you.
They'll do it for you. They'll start to program yourself for you, because they have that deeper knowledge of how your brain works. And that's why people fall for it.
Exactly. And you're speaking about like every group in society right now that is considered a gang in a way, or considered a cult, or anything that is basically allowing people to follow them without having a thought of their own, you know, because they're missing that they're missing that fundamental connection with themselves.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, okay, I don't have it, so I'm going to find it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's just like
emotion. I think, I don't know, like it seems it's like if they can get the emotional response, the emotions are so powerful, it overrides some of the logical thinking. That's
Mhm.
why they'll always talk about children, or he's done talked about, I remember being there in the womb, and so you just feel like for a split second you can almost feel like, wow, he must be so much more powerful than me. Wow, like I'm so small compared to him. Like how big and expanded is he? And so
Yeah, or I don't know what he's talking about, but he sounds really smart,
yeah,
so
so
I'm
I'm
just
just
gonna
gonna
believe
believe
it.
it because I don't know because I'm small me. So I'm just gonna like he must know because he's read all of these books. So I'm just gonna believe it. And it's
Mhm.
surprising how many people go along people's paths just believing and being sidetracked because they don't
Yeah.
have that clue. And also you might not be deeply intelligent, but you can have spiritual wisdom, and
Mm.
that's more intelligent than any incarnation because it's the wisdom of the ether. So yeah, you might not know
Mhm.
what the big scientific words he's saying because I didn't know what the scientific words, but my heart didn't need to know. That's why I said to you, I
Mm.
didn't need, and I do give things my due diligence. But when you just know something, and it would be a waste of your spiritual energy to sit there and watch the entire thing. I mean,
Mm.
I did sit there and watch the whole Cat Williams interview, but I just found it, I found that
It's
just like so entertaining. But like,
just funny,
I still knew, like, come on,
right?
Cat, like, yeah, what the most successful black comedian in America? No way, just no way. There's no way.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you guys think is the whole point of this? Is it
Mm,
energy harvesting? Is it
mm.
some sort of deeper, I don't know, thing that's going on out there that they're trying to do to us? Like, what's the whole point of trying to have us think the way that, Terrence Howard is thinking and be basically completely.
Man, the first thing that comes to my mind is uh, cosmology. There's a bigger thing happening on the planet, and it doesn't just stop on the planet. There's investors, cosmic investors. I know that might sound wild, but there's cosmic investors who need planet Earth to go a certain way, to look a certain way, to have a certain experience. They're very interested in keeping people at a certain frequency, let's just say, hence cosmic frequency, right? Because the frequency that we're bringing is not of interest to them. And so I think the whole point with the whole Terrence Howard thing is it's multi-layered. One, it's for these cosmic investors or off-planet beings who want to see Earth basically go to crap. Um, two, it's for the experience of the soul to sharpen its discernment. Really, it's like
Mm.
it could be that simple. It could
Yin
be
and
that
yang.
simple.
If
You
that
know?
that from that perspective, it's a really powerful thing that's happened.
Yeah.
It's not just everything's black or white. It's not just this is a psyop, so therefore it's evil. It's like
Right.
actually it could be there because your soul's decided to be confused. Your soul decided to listen to Tanisha and Indigo and Chris, and that confusion and you trying to battle with yourself and what that is. That's the presence of God,
That's
or
it.
that's powerful. It might
Mhm.
not be their reason that they made it, but your higher self has been able to like draw out. And from a Buddhist perspective, very quickly, I don't know if guys know I'm a Buddhist, so I
Mhm.
follow what Tina Turner followed. I use her just as an example because most people don't know anyone else that chants Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. So if you've seen the film What's Love Got to Do with It, she's getting beat by Ike Turner and she turns into a Buddhist. So I'm a Buddhist, and there's a saying called Ichen in Zanzen, which means there's 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. And what that really gives me is the knowledge that nothing is just what you seem like it seems. It's not just good or bad. There's so many different potentials. Depending on the person's life state, someone watching that Terrence Howard interview could go into a state of hell, or could receive Buddhahood from it, or receive some like kind of rapture, excitement from it. So everything is so dynamic and moving, and I think people like us are just the people to help people recognize when they get to that realization that this isn't actually as powerful as you think it is. And actually, you're so just the simple fact that you're questioning, can I trust this? And if you're listening to this podcast right now, you have no idea how powerful you are. Because in my opinion, and Chris was saying earlier, these cosmic investors and stuff, they've literally been planning this, in my opinion, for hundreds of years, using think tanks and using like all these esoteric occult secret teachings in order to bamboozle us. So you said, Tanisha, why are they doing this? I think it's to literally keep us in the maze, to keep us in what we spoke about last time, the flower of life, which is actually Metatron's daisy of death, what we call in Buddhism the Sahar world, where you keep on incarnating, but you don't break out, you don't go to that
Right.
next level. And so they just give you all of this glorious, amazing information that we just keep going around and around, but we just don't do that simple step, which is go in and free ourselves, emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. history, as Marcus Garvey said. And that's where we start to really free ourselves. And then you know about the straw man, you know about your birth certificate, you know about the hundreds of millions of pounds we've got in the trust, in the IRS, in Washington, and in the Vatican, and all the gold that's actually belongs to all of us. And you
Don't get me started.
You start to recognize how we are all walking gods and emperors and empresses, and that's why that's why they're psyops like Terrence and they have to be amazing. They have to bamboozle us. They're aiming for the top level spiritual people now. They know because we're the last hope. We're the last hope where we can step into our Buddhahood. We can really change the course of history, change the timeline. And so they know that. So they're giving us so much, man, to try and confuse us. But I don't know. I think for the three of us, I don't know about you, Tanisha. Maybe you can tell me. Did it go straight over your head, or was you really invested in the conversation? Like, how did you receive the interview?
Yeah, that I want to hear that too. Like, what was it like for you? Because intuitively, for me, I can. Yeah, let me just. Yeah. Boy, I was going to tell you what I felt was happening, but I just want to hear from you.
Okay, yeah. So again, like the first time I watched it, I was just really enthralled with what he was saying. The way I see it, because I think it's because the reason why I'm doing, I'm interviewing people right now is I like to hear both sides, and I don't really have a stance. I just like to hear it, and and then if someone were to ask me, okay, if Terrence Howard was in front of you right now, or anyone similar to what he was doing, and they gave you a choice, I would trust my intuition. I would choose discernment no matter what, but I would never shut the door on the information.
Yeah.
So,
Amazing.
I'm excited, and whether this is leading to energy harvesting or not, and the shadow government, or should I say the Anunnaki, shadow Anunnaki or something, if they're really trying to keep us from reincarnating, or I'm sorry, actually reincarnating consistently because there's some sort of gain there, then I mean it's a possibility, but I definitely want to hear about the people that that want to talk about it.
Yeah,
so hopefully that answers your question.
It does massively. Yeah.
I love that, and I think this is the level of conversation we need to be having. Like you said, Tanisha, you said it earlier. We just need to talk about it. This has come up, but we need to talk about it, and I think that's the important thing, because understanding removes fear and breeds clarity, right? So a couple years ago, quick story, in our old house, there was a noise outside. It was nighttime, it was dark. I heard a noise. I didn't know what it was. Initially, I was like, oh, what is that? Like the initial, like, and something told me just to go out and check it out. And so it was pitch black out. I hear all this wrestling up in the pine tree. And I'm like, what in the world could this possibly be? So I had this fear come up, right? But I decided to take a few steps forward. And as I did, I saw the most beautiful owl spread its wings and just kind of fly over the whole yard. It was absolutely glorious.
Wow.
And what I learned from that was it wasn't necessarily the fear of the unknown. It was not understanding. I didn't have the understanding of what that was. And once I understood it, there was no more fear because I understood it. And I think that's what these conversations do, is whether it's, whatever end of the spectrum, bringing clarity to it for each human being at wherever they are in that 3,000 level of consciousness.
Wow.
That's the key. That's the key. For me, I'm seeing it from a cosmic perspective, knowing a lot of cosmology that I've yet to share with the world yet, as we're rolling out cosmic frequency. But for me personally, they're doing it because they want to keep Earth under their control. It's that simple.
Right.
That's it.
Chris, what is cosmology?
So just the study of the cosmos, right? So cosmic frequency, I think we did an episode on this, is really bringing forth a multi-dimensional frequency of higher realms. So I know my star family, my star lineage, where I'm from, quite actually. I've seen myself, I've woken up in my immersion pod, and the information and the knowledge that I have as the soul is meant to be shared with advancing civilizations. Our counterparts are the ones who would rather not that happen, right? But this literally is Star Wars. You have the Sith, and then you have the Jedi. So
I like that.
In my opinion, sooner or later, the soul has to decide what its core frequency wants to be. You can stay here or here, but sooner or later you got to say, okay, this is what I am. This is how I express myself. This is my identification as whatever, the soul, the spirit, the source. So
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things that you mentioned or one of the things I thought when you were speaking was discernment. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that are listening to this podcast that have not really, they don't feel comfortable and they don't feel like they are really in tune with their discernment, like their intuition. They don't really know what it is, maybe. I do want to say that people like Terrence Howard and I don't know, just the podcast itself, eventually they will get to a point where they might say something and it makes absolutely no sense, and you just use your human brain at that point. For example, during the interview at Joe Rogan, he gets to a point where Joe Rogan's asking like really good questions, and he's not really answering them. I think it was to do with the seed of life. I'm sorry, the flower of life. And he has like this model, and he's talking about the model, and it's like made out of this plastic. And Joe Rogan's really trying to understand what it is and what he's trying to do here. And Terrence Howard he's not telling him. And at that point, regardless of how in tune you are with your inner being and yourself and your higher self and things like that, like it's just not going to make any sense. And I think overall, I don't know, lies eventually reveal itself.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Indigo.
First thing I would say is, if even Joe Rogan's getting lost, and Joe Rogan, it seems, is a very intelligent person who's gone into deep realms through different trips and stuff. If even Joe Rogan's getting lost, then what value is it that we're all sitting here listening to the technical ins and outs? Like, at the end of the day, if you're going to change the world, just do it. Go change the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, go create the thing, pattern it up, and do it. Like, we don't need to know. Like, I don't know how I don't have a clue how this iPhone works. No one will ever tell me how I'm speaking to you right now, all the way in America, and I'm near the seaside in the UK. I don't understand it, but I don't need to. A baby doesn't understand why when it suckles on its mother's teat, like why it feels full and it gets all the nourishment, but it doesn't need to understand about the. So I just think, that just seemed quite again, it's just fancy talk. It's not valuable. And when you know that you're that intelligent, you should be at least giving it into like really digestible ways for people, so that if it's going to be useful and valuable to us, we can actually take it away and do something with it. But there's absolutely, I guarantee, out of the 4 million people that watched that, no one went home and started making one of them like 369 models and trying to fly it off into space, because you know what I mean. We're all struggling, paying our rent, putting petrol in our car, and surviving. This Star Wars right now.
That's a beautiful way to put it, both of you. That's a great question and a great answer. And then I'll also add, if you can't explain it, what good does it? Doesn't mean anything. If I talk about something, it might sound really cool, but I think one of the things that we try to do here with Cosmic Frequency is to make everything digestible, make it relatable. This is why some of the best teachers use allegory and metaphor. I talk about cake and food all the time because it's something that people can relate to, and that's what you want to do, is you want to have the soul be sparked through its own remembrance. And if you're not, if you're just titillating someone's thinking centers, like you said, they're just going to go back and watch TV or do whatever they were doing before the podcast. So it's, to me, that, to answer your question, Tanisha, to me that points to information and not transformation. It sounds good, and it excites my brain to hear that. Wow. But it's like a kid watching a TV show that has like whatever FPS, frames per second, and they're just like, whoa, and then they get done and they're like all zombied out and they're throwing temper tantrums and everything.
Yeah,
it's that kind of thing for us adults now. There's information coming out, but this information, we can't apply it. Doesn't matter how advanced it is. The most advanced being is going to be able to articulate its findings in a way that's applicable to the species that it's looking to connect with.
Yeah.
So that's what I see with that portion of the podcast.
I love what you said. Titillating people's thought centers. That's exactly what I think that interview was. And like a lot of the news coming out right now, they're giving us disclosure in all of these titillating little bits and bobs. And that's exactly what it is. It's like you said, it's just overloading us with all of this stuff. So we're all like buzzing, and we're stuck in that excitement mode while we're missing literally mass slaughter of people on this planet.
But then you say, right, okay, but I'm still going to put gas in my car. That's what I'm talking about. It's like, what can we do? Oh man, I think one of my kiddos fell. She should be okay. What can we do on?
There it is.
Yeah,
It's always a pause
I was
before
like,
the scream, right?
yeah. What can we do on a fundamental level here in our everyday lives? This is why we have an upcoming training we're doing on meditation, on advanced meditation techniques. Why? Because someone can sit or not or stand or whatever and just tune into themselves and apply that in real
Mm,
time and change
mm,
their life. And from that seed of whatever they enter into in their meditation will sprout the awareness, the technology, the understanding of the cosmos that is needed, right? So it's not, sometimes it's not about, like I said, oh, I know my star family, that's great, but sometimes it's diving into the human experience and planting the apple seed, and knowing that that apple seed is only gonna grow up to be an apple tree, right? So sometimes it's something so simple. So yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So, other than using your own intuition, what are some ways that people can find out that whatever's happening in the media or in the world is a distraction?
Oof, that's a good question. How can they find out it's a distraction? Yeah, I would say, can you apply it? Can you take that information and apply it in a practical way, even if you don't understand it, you know, to the maximum? And then also, how does it make you feel? How does it make you feel? You hear the
Mm,
information, you hear the person speaking. Does it strike your heart as a, do you feel your body expanding? Or is it just things that are making you excited in your mind? Like, think about, you're watching a movie. I love going to the movies,
same,
um, but I'm very, very picky. Like, I won't
same,
just watch any movie, you know. And
same.
I'm very good at rating and grading those movies. Rotten Tomatoes is my best friend. But the reason I'm so good at movies is because I know how my brain thinks. I'm not looking for just anything. I'm looking for something that's going to make me feel a certain way. And so you can translate that feeling into all these things that are coming out. When you watch things about Palestine, we watch things about Terrence Howard, do you feel like you're expanding your consciousness, or you're just getting excited like you would watching a good movie? That's my take on it. What would you say, Indigo? And Tanisha, I'm
Well,
curious.
I'm gonna ask you a question on it actually, because I know being both American. So, what is your discernment on QAnon?
You know what? I'm actually really ashamed that I do not know that much about it. Like, during that whole era, I ignored the media and I ignored the um, the election and things like that. And I've only recently I have a very, simple overview of it. That is
Hmm.
human trafficking in a way, right? That's what Trump was trying to. This is so bad.
No,
No, no,
it's
it's
all
not. It's not. You know already more than the average person. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's what I was gonna say too.
But before I answer that, Tanisha, what's your response, Chris? And then you
Yeah.
go back.
So
I think this is
funny.
a good example.
When it first came out, I was like, no, just no, just no, because again, but I have that kind of mindset where I don't believe anything. I'm a very open skeptic. Um,
Yeah.
so mine was a no, but ironically enough, I actually met and connected with the man whose friend supposedly started the whole thing, and he started it as a joke. He never intended it for it to become what it did. So once I heard that, I was like, oh, okay. So that's as far as I went into it. I didn't dig too deep. It felt like something that people, again, were hoping was true so that their life can change,
Mm-hmm.
instead of
Mhm.
just taking the steps they needed to change themselves in their life, which isn't always easy. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
why? What are
Yeah.
your,
So
what are you getting at?
what you just said is, yeah, I resonate with it. Basically, it put the power of God outside of us. It made
Right.
everyone, hopefully, like QAnon's main tagline is trust the plan. Just keep trusting the plan. And when you're just
Oh,
trusting
is
the
it
plan,
really?
yeah, trust the plan. So basically, you just sit down stagnant, do nothing, and wait
Oh,
for Donald
no.
Trump to save the world. But the reason I asked that is because uh and so one thing before I even, so Chris, you said you met the guy that said his friend made it and as like a joke, and he never intended to be that big. That's interesting because from my understanding, QAnon is like deeply military, like it's deep in the government and like all of the what they call white hats. So like people that are in these
Hmm.
organizations which have turned against working against humanity, and they're like they're working. now inside of these. So like the, DARPA or HARP or CERN and all of these
Right.
different organizations, there's people inside of them that have like, turned to the light. So
But
yeah,
the thing with that is we have to look at this like light and the dark in this section. That's
yeah,
their light and dark, right? The
yeah,
government is going to have light and dark, but it's still going to be within its own sphere.
yeah.
Then you have the underground people like us, I guess you could say, or cosmic people like us, wherever you want to say it. We have a complete different framework that's not even in their light
Right.
or in their dark.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a different thing. But I digress. Go ahead.
yeah. I guess I wanted to ask that because it was like, it's when 2020 happened, there was something called the fall of the cabal. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. It's now there's 30 parts, yeah, and the woman was actually the woman that created it, Janet from the Netherlands, I believe. She was found hung in a forest only recently. But the fall of the cabal,
Mm.
the reason I brought all of this up is because when I watched that, it's all information I knew, but like it's information I knew from loads of different bits and bobs of my life and research, but it just put together perfectly in
Mm.
this. It was the first one, part 1 to 10, was 3 hours long, right? And so part 1 to 9, and this is why I believe it's a psyop. So part 1 to 9 was the most orgasmic, incredible, amazing information, which wasn't in. It just wasn't. I was expanding. It was, when you just really deeply resonate. You're like,
Yeah.
yes, now I know who controls the banks. Now I know why
Mm.
this happened in history. Now I know
Right.
that there's a depopulation program. Now I know that there's a load of child stuff going on, which is so inappropriate. But then the last episode, the last half an hour, it's all suddenly, but sit back and trust the plan because Donald Trump is, the incarnation of this powerful deity who's going to save the world. And there's all these photos of Donald Trump standing there with like 1,000 soldiers in a queue. I'm sure you've seen some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the most, to be honest, I know that is AI or some kind of, and also when the deep state Babylon, whoever's orchestrating this thing, it is orchestrated, as Leave the World Behind, the film, is proving right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
everything is so orchestrated. So when people are blown away, like how did they predict that on this day there was going to be this thing happen? Well, it's quite simple. They knew on this day this thing was going to happen. Yeah, because they created the plan. And so
Right.
for me, Q is definitely one of the world's most sophisticated psyops because they are giving us so much incredible information. But again,
Yeah.
you can watch, and I've done it, and this is the one that got me the closest to like believing it. And I've no doubt watched like 30, 40 hours now of all this Q stuff, but not
Wow.
one of the videos does it really tell you
Oh,
very practical steps on just how to free yourself from your birth certificate, which to me is one of the most fundamental things anyone needs to do to even begin to start to claim your sovereign. So when you know
Yeah.
these simple things, very, very simple things, you can talk all your glamorous talk. You can talk about Donald Trump saving the children and the pandemic was all a lie to try and save all of the underground children from all of the adrenochrome stuff and all of that. I don't know what I'm trying to use loads of non-trigger words so that this doesn't get filtered. But yeah, like for them to then say just trust the plan and wait around, it's stopping us from basically having this conversation, grappling with the difficult things because you're just believing it's all being taken care of, and nothing.
Right.
I'm telling you, in my opinion, nothing's being taken care of, and no one really is in control of anything. Really, this is
Right.
a deep universe.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think post pandemic, I'll say,
Yep.
a lot of people have realized that our government doesn't have us, isn't able to take care of everything.
Yep.
A lot of families have had to kind of, figure it out on their own in a way. And there's a lot of death and things like
Mm.
that that's happened. So even personally with me, like my mom passed from it. So I
Wow.
like that became
Wow.
extremely
Wow.
real for me. And it was a big slap in the face where people were like, oh, it's not real. No one's actually getting sick. It's like, well, I know that people are really getting sick.
Yep.
And I don't understand how that's not, that's not taken seriously because obviously our government can 100% send someone to any lab to create any virus to kill a lot of people. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that far fetched, And my husband's a really big believer of population control,
Mm.
and
Oh, I love him
I think
already.
that could have, yeah, right. So he's also a flat earther too, but that's another conversation. So
It's a great conversation. Yeah.
it is absolutely. So I don't know where I was getting at there, but I just thought I wanted to bring that up. And everything, the government doesn't have it all figured
And
out, and a lot more people than you know believe that and really feel that.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I love that you brought that up, Tanisha, because that opens the door for another part of this podcast episode today, which is so the government doesn't have everything figured out. We can see that now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they do something like this Terrence Howard thing, and they throw all this fancy spiritual talk around. Well, okay, we need to start asking fundamental. I know I keep using that word, but we need to start asking basic questions.
Yep.
What is the birth certificate? What are taxes? How do I file or not file my taxes?
Yep.
You know, how do I navigate if I get pulled over by a police officer? All these things which are just taken for granted.
Yep.
But these are and I'm seeing in my mind, sticks. You have sticks, kind of like the foundation of like toothpicks, right? Then you have like the house of cards built on top of toothpicks. That's what's happening. The house of cards isn't even built on cards; it's built on toothpicks. So every time you learn something about this physical realm and how it really operates, you knock out that toothpick, you knock out that one, you knock out that one. So one avenue of wisdom here I'll share is that the government was never designed. It was not initially designed to be what it is. It is an egregor or usurper. Originally, it was the people who set forth the government and the precedents of what happened in that governmental structure. The government has overstepped its judicial, political, executive boundaries by far. But it's also because people have become ignorant and lazy. People have become lazy within their own consciousness. When you become lazy within your own consciousness, you become lazy in your physical life as well. And just like you're driving down a highway and you move lanes, another car comes to fill it in. Well, spiritually, this is what's happening. This is what the government has done. It stepped into a vacancy that the people have not
fulfilled themselves.
Yes, thank you. Fulfilled or claimed.
And it's usually after something happens, some major destruction happened, and it creates that fear, or that created fear, and then the government's like, "Hey, we got you no matter what. You don't have to look over there anymore."
Well, you'd call that problem reaction solution. They create the problem, we react, and they've got their pre-planned solution.
Yeah,
exactly. So, this is why I love apocalyptic movies. Sorry to cut you off.
So I love apocalyptic movies. They're my favorite.
Because the best part, listen, the best part is when the shit happens and then people are scrambling around trying to figure out how to save themselves. And it's always some dude that's smart as hell. That's like, wait, come over here. I got a bunker.
Have you seen how it ends? Have you seen how it ends on Netflix? The movie, Tanisha. With Forrest Whitaker.
No, I don't think
listen,
so.
I've got you got a movie to watch, man. I've watched that about 50 times. How it ends. It's a great. Do you have an apocalyptic movie for me? I love them. I'm always trying to search for one.
Yeah, so I did see that movie, by the way. It's absolutely insane.
A Quiet Place.
It's crazy.
I'll throw that one in there. A Quiet Place. Have you seen that? A Quiet Place.
A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
right. Isn't that what it's called, Tanisha? With those like weird beings and they run around, you can't make a noise.
Yes.
Ooh, that one is so good. Yeah, that's the one.
It's so good, and it's so what's that word? When there's like the meaning that's behind it that's not obvious.
Yes, that's why I like it, because it's not. It's scary, but it's not meant to be horror. Yeah. It's survival. It's like
it's meant to make you think.
Yes.
What about Civil War? Tanisha, the new one that's just come out. Have you seen that?
What was it again?
Civil War. It's just come out.
I don't think.
Is it good?
No, so this is what you call a massive bit of predictive programming. I believe it's the continuation of the film Leave the World Behind, and it's all over the cinemas. It's all on the buses here in the UK and on all the billboards. And just at a time when civil war in many countries, I think there's 120 conflicts on the planet right now, major civil wars happening. And it's just one of them films where they're just pre-warning us what's about to happen. I just want to also say, Tanisha, really quickly, because I haven't had the opportunity, regarding your mother, you're fulfilling her mission right now by asking these questions. Like, I'm going to say sorry she's passed, because of course it's difficult, but at the same time, death is such an inevitable part of this reality, that the fact she's passed in what I consider to be one of the biggest attacks on humanity, and the fact that you're here smiling and opening up yourself and having this conversation, like just keep on fulfilling her vow, which was to, like, that's why she had you, so you can change the world. So just wanted to say that.
Thank
See?
you. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think like most people, whenever something major happens in their life, that's when they start seeking, I don't know, something outside of themselves. And like right before she passed, we started talking about meditating together.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was like, I don't know what meditation is, Mom, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna sit here and
Wow.
stare at each
And do
other.
it.
We have
Wow.
And look at you.
yeah,
Yeah. And what a in death there is life if you can see it in that way, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
so beautiful, it's so powerful.
it really is. And I'm closer to her now than anything.
Wow.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
when she was in her human form, she was very, she had a lot of traumas. So she was very closed off and proud and things like that. And then when she passed, it was like a whole new world opened up.
Wow.
Wow.
So I feel her all the time. And even right now, like I can,
Hmm.
she's very proud of me. She's with me everywhere I go. So
That's so
anyways,
cool. That's so cool.
Massive.
Yeah,
Massive.
there's that's a path I'd love. I mean, death is an interesting topic too. In that same light, I think we're seeing the death of this. It's really a transition from this lower form of consciousness, right? We're
Yeah.
seeing this all over, like we're the Civil War movie you're just talking about, um, and it's showing up physically in the form of death, right? Where people like Tanisha's mom are passing, because one, this world, they don't want to be. It's just time to move on,
Hmm. Hmm.
and so we have this metaphor of death of a system transformation, right? And then kind of how they talked about in the Bible. What was it? Oh my God, Left Behind. You guys see those old movies, Left Behind,
I don't think I
The
have. No.
Rapture?
I,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's a big Christian
Yes.
movie. I know. Or religious, yeah.
You saw it, Tanisha?
I have, yeah. So when I was a kid,
Yeah,
though,
same.
I don't remember much, but I do remember that it's based off the Bible, Left Behind, meaning that the rapture happens and people are taken up into heaven, and the rest that are, heathens are left on
Yeah.
earth to
Yeah.
It sounds like
deal with.
Kingdom Hall made it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that's
Jehovah's Witnesses.
no, probably, yeah. I mean, but that's what's happening. It's not as physical as we thought. But
Yeah,
I have
I
a
agree totally, bro. Sorry to cut you. I totally agree that, like, in a sense, that Armageddon, it's all just been perceived incorrectly.
yes,
100%.
exactly.
Like we're not just sucking up into heaven, because heaven isn't an external place. It's not, but it's very much going on about the death and the straw. It's the death of the straw man. It's the death of this whole paradigm of the House of Cards. It's that stuff.
Yes,
Sorry. Yeah, I just agreed with you totally.
you're good. You're good, and don't be sorry. This is we're all flowing. That's exactly it. And what was I going to say? It's almost as if the people who are left behind, right? They flipped it. They said the people who are going to be left behind are going to be the heathens, but it's not. I see people like you two here and others as really the angels, as the higher selves here to guide and to show a different way, And here's the thing: there's always going to be the Armageddon. There's always going to be the transition from the dark to the light, right? It's always going to be this perpetual flow. So, we're just aware of this process, this point of time right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, my favorite apocalyptic movie, by the way, is The Knowing, and that's the series.
Yes, that one is.
Yeah,
The
That
Knowing.
one's
I think I may have
good.
so
thought of that, but I don't feel like I don't remember being impressed.
Oh,
What's it about? I can't.
yeah, that's the one, and I don't remember the actor's
Nic-
name. He's a big actor.
Nicolas
He's the
Nicholas
one that
Cage,
had
isn't
a
it?
son.
Nicholas Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
Oh wait,
Okay.
that's the one. Wait, do you know what? I think if I'm right, it's the most incredible movie, but the ending shit. If that was for me, like, wasn't that the little boy and like his sister went off or something like that? Yeah, it is a great movie.
Yeah. They basically all die. Like.
Oh yeah, that is the ending. It's so funny you said that, because the ending for me is always whenever they're spoiler alert, just throwing it out there. The ending for me is always whenever they're seeing the beings. I always forget that there's another like 10 minutes where everything's just like melting. I'm like, oh.
Okay, so not so serious movie, favorite apocalyptic movie, and I have to look for it, but it's the one where it's all the actors in the house at a house party, and the rapture happens, and they leave the house, and there's like demons around.
Oh, I think I've
Like, come on,
yes.
I have to
Is
look
it
it
an
up.
American
Then.
movie or an English one? It's an American.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, whoa, Teenage, why are you looking that up? Question for you, Indigo.
Yes,
You're in the UK, aren't you?
I am. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Tanisha, you have your movie?
This is the end, is what it's called.
I haven't seen it. I don't know
This is
that
the
one.
end. That way, not how it ends. It's called "This Is the End." Yeah.
Yeah, it's called This Is the End. Look that up. It's funny. It's a
Oh,
comedy,
okay.
so
Cool.
it's not
Cool.
really
Cool. Cool.
that.
Cool. All
All
right.
right. Movie time. This is gonna be fun. Um, so switching gears here. You're in the UK
Yes.
now. What is your knowledge on the ancient cultures? So the Celtics and the Druids, and that whole uh, history of them. Because there's a couple things I want to ask you pertaining to some information I just found out about the UK Celtics, Druids, a specific town I'll mention in a moment. But I want to see what your
It's not
knowledge base
Glastonbury, is
is.
it?
No, it's not. No, this came to me in dream time. I get words and phrases as
Oh,
I'm
you two
waking
are
up.
powerful. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, and this was one of them. But I'll tell
I
you in a
don't.
second.
I couldn't tell you too much, honestly, about the Celtics and the Druid history. No.
Okay, so this is important because remember you asked me what cosmology is. So cosmology is really the study of the cosmos. But you don't study the cosmos as individual parts. You study it as a whole. So now we're talking about time. Time is no longer the past, future, present. You see just events. You just see events, right? So when you really start to study cosmology, you're expanding your mind. You see the Celtics and the Druids, Egyptians, Atlantis. They're not past, future, present. It's all different events that impact each
Whoa.
other through all time, through all space. It's a direct influence. So this is all coming through right now. This is why this is really important. We have the Terrence Howard thing. That's if you froze time, you would see that this whole thing is meant to capture a specific frequency of human consciousness to take
Mhm.
advantage of it
Yes.
because it actually connects to what some would call past events where they weren't able to do that to the degree that they wanted to. We would call this the Egyptian time, the fall of the Egyptian Empire, right? Or first there was the rise, and then there was the fall, then the Romans. But the civilizations that predate all of that is the Celtics and the Druids. The Celtics and the Druids were the real time magicians. They were the Star Walkers. They were the star people incarnate on planet Earth. Um, Now, humans didn't originate on the Earth. They are beings of the ether.
Mhm.
We don't say, "Oh, where'd the first tree come from?" We just know that it's a part of creation, whether it's on this planet or another one. Humans are the same. Humans are inherently interstellar people. Okay, so with that knowledge, the ether makes itself it condenses itself into a form, right? We call that a human being, whatever, or a tree or a rock. When you have awareness of yourself to that degree, you are a magician. So the Celtics and the Druids were so in tune with nature because they were nature, they were their self.
Wow.
And so their magic that they shared wasn't magic because it was mysterious. It was magic only to us because we didn't understand it.
Mm.
Because their level of spirituality was so far advanced than the typical man or woman. So the Celtics and Druids helped to establish Egypt.
Well, this is
Now,
interesting because I was about to just say, are we? Because this is you're bending my and expanding my own awareness of what civilizations are.
mhm.
Up until this moment, I'm very much firm in the understanding that ancient Kemet was the first. But what you're saying is potentially that the Druids and the Celtics
Yeah,
actually helped develop Kemet and
bingo.
ancient Egypt.
Yes, yes,
That's
yes.
interesting.
Yep. Go
And
ahead, Tanisha.
not to
Question.
specifically bring race in it, but are you talking about like Caucasian, European Celtic Druids?
All kinds.
Yeah,
There,
because I was about
there's
to,
all
because
kinds.
like even like yeah, from my knowledge, what I'm learning about the ancient United Kingdom, like even like 3 AD, like going back that far, black people were on this land long
Hmm.
before slavery. So like
Hmm.
my our understanding of the Celtics and Druids, at first I'm seeing Caucasian, European, white people, but actually God knows what it would have actually been. So yeah, okay. Sorry, I just had to.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is new to me.
it's all
Well,
good.
Chris,
Go ahead.
yeah, what do you think about if there were Druids, then were the Druids also connected to Atlantis? Because as you know, the Atlanteans, when Atlantis fell, and I might be going far, like way
No,
too
you're
far back,
good.
but
You're spot on, though. Yeah.
They traveled, and they were the first Egyptians in a way.
Okay. Yeah. See.
So what do you think about that?
So good. So we're completing this circle today. This is really powerful. What's happening here? We're completing a huge. I don't want to say karmic, but it kind of is karmic circle of understanding for people who will watch this. There's a direct crossover between the Celtics, Druids, Atlantis, Egypt. It's like you could take one and look this way, one and look that way, but it's a circle. It's a circle. But you got to take time out of the equation, because if you try to look at it from a linear perspective, it gets tangled and it doesn't make sense. This is why I say cosmology is the study of the cosmos, which is just events, things that happened, right? Time is not a linear process. So the Celtics and Druids helped establish Egypt. And at this time, there was an empire. I did a video specifically on this portion. This is where religion comes into play. There was priests. Now, this is really important because that's who we're talking about, Terrence Howard. There were false prophets and priests who took what was called the Septuagint, and they started to teach. So first, you had the Sadducees or the Zadukia, which in the Bible you look up the word Sadducees. Those were the good priests, let's just say, the noble people. They were the way showers, the people of light, the people of purity. They taught that God was found within, right? Now, the dark priests, let's just say, not black, not brown people, but just dark in their hearts, took those teachings and they flipped it upside down, and they became the high priests that would go around telling the people how reality worked. But it was an inversion of the original teachings of the Sadducees and the Zadukia. So you had the people from the stars bringing wisdom from the cosmos. That information was taken and flipped into a narrative to fit an agenda. Now, fast forward. The Roman Empire has a military leader by the name of Titus Flavius. I'm so glad we are recording this. This is my first time really getting this out. Titus the Flavius had a son, a general named Nero. Pause here. As a kid, I would draw pictures of a battle, of a war. I was probably 4 or 5 years old. And I would draw myself riding a horse with a little sword. And I'd always go to nix the evil king, the evil emperor Nero.
Wow.
This is years ago. I had this memory with me my whole entire life, to the point where a couple years ago, I text my mom, hey, do you still have that drawing of da-da-da? Yeah. And, the drawing of me drawing out Nero, she confirmed it. I didn't know who Nero was consciously. It wasn't until I found external information that was shown to me that Nero was a real man who was a part of this Roman Empire, who was the son of Titus the Flavius, who was commissioned to go around. The first culture they destroyed was the Celtics and the Druids.
Wow.
And me, back then, or whatever I was incarnating, I was... The funny thing is, do you want to know how Nero died?
How?
No one knows.
Yeah.
No one knows.
Oh.
But I think I do. And I don't know if I should be saying this, but I think in those drawings that I was drawing as a kid, nixing, getting rid of Nero, doing some time travel thing. So just long story short, Terrence Howard, in my opinion, is one of these ancient priests looking to take the wisdom of the stars and invert it to take advantage of the people on this planet. If you look at cosmology and these different patterns that's shown up, boom, 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 it's the same story.
Yeah.
You two were probably back with me during those somehow, some way,
Well, yeah. And everything you've just said really is my story of creation in my own way. It's just that just through different ways. For instance, like, I really believe more from like a maybe kind of like you talk about star people. So then, the overlords or whoever the people are that run this planet. I would say some kind of Draco reptilian consciousness. Yeah, some very low level vibration
Yes,
energy. They don't have creativity, they don't have any of
true.
that spark, and so they take it from us.
Yep,
And everything you just said about the inversion is definitely everything we're seeing. Everything is literally inverted and
that's it.
backwards. And I would say that I personally believe kind of the modern interpretation of the Bible is actually what they're doing is actually they're praying towards demons and everything. It's all wrong, because like they haven't, it's not the sacred. They take out the Book of Enoch and all the important parts, which actually complete it and make it holistic. And if something isn't holistic, if part of the hologram is broken, then the whole thing no longer works. So yeah, everything really is inverted, and we're seeing that with so much confusion in the world right now, and pain, and war, and black and white, and yeah, it's not how it should be, and there's a lot of things going against the natural flow of the universe, and so yeah, you've really confirmed to me that my own belief is really what's happening. It just turns up in different ways, but it's the same narrative.
Exactly. It turns up in
Yeah.
different ways. Yeah, go ahead, Tanisha.
I was just gonna say how I want to meet with you guys again and talk more about like the occult.
Mm.
And I say that because obviously it's really interesting, and we're really going into it right now. But I'm doing a bunch of research on my own, and I started with Hermeticism, and then going from there, learning about like, you know, what was it called? I already forgot. But basically, it's like that symbol where it's supposed to signify like our body
Oh,
and our
the tree of life.
Tree of Life, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started learning about the Tree of Life, and now I'm going into Rosicrucians, and I'm getting very Western with my learnings. So I do want to talk to you guys more about that. And Indigo, you said that you're into the occult, and you seem to know a lot about that. Also, sacred geometry, sacred math, Chris. That's
Mm-hmm.
something a term that you threw at me yesterday.
Yeah.
But I want to know. I don't know. Are you guys interested in having a whole conversation about that the next time we meet?
Most
I
definitely.
am. Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it's one of the most important things in becoming spiritual. For me, the two aspects. If you really want to call yourself spiritual when you're doing the spiritual path, it's not taking cacao or doing ayahuasca or going or like always meditating or chanting all the time. It's actually having feet in the ground, very real, very dense human 3D. We are flesh, and we have to realize the slavery we're currently in. Our ancestors 400 years ago, slavery never stopped then. It never stopped with World War II. It's transformed in a very different way. And for me, the two things we do spiritually is we understand the occult. We understand on every single high street there's a Freemason building, and people do not ask what goes on there. People do not ask why the men don't bring the women there. People don't realize that to become a first degree Freemason, you have to have a noose around your neck. You have to admit that if you reveal any secrets, that you have to have your bowels cut open and distributed north, south, east, and west of the planet. That's just to become a first degree apprentice Mason. And that's and really dark things.
Yeah.
You have to reveal your nipple to show that you're not a woman. You have to show your ankle. All this, like, I've read a whole book. There's a book called Unmasking Freemasonry by Selwyn Stevens. I'd really recommend people. I did an interview with the author. It's really crazy. So yeah, people need to understand the occult and recognize how they're involved in all things. It's infiltrated all religions, all faiths. Spirituality is no doubt their biggest weapon, and new age techniques is how they're catching us. And then the second thing would be understanding, our taxes, our straw man, our birth certificate. And if we can get them two things, then we can go into smoke some weed in the forest. Then we can have some tantric sex. We can do all of that great stuff. But until we realize really that the occult is controlling us, and they know so much that, and they know so much that we know, but we haven't remembered it. And when I say remember, I mean remembering all of who we are back together. Exactly. Because we are so powerful, and they know this, and so that's why they can give us the Terrence Howards, and we think it's just an actor, because it's actually a deep thing. Terrence Howard, in my opinion, would be part of the Boule, some kind of like black fraternity, Freemason lodge, and it's part of either he's being blackmailed and his family are in danger, or it's part of his mission, and he truly believes he's doing good for his own personal beliefs, for what he believes, because some of these people genuinely believe that depopulation is necessary. There's an interview with the Church of Satan years ago. If you search for it on YouTube, it's still there. It's like the daughter of the main man from the Church of Satan, and one of the, like, his main priests. And I'll be honest, like, obviously I would never be a Satanist, but like when you hear the way they've been taught, a lot of the stuff actually really makes sense. That like they're like, we are elite and you're all stupid, and you're just dumb, and you don't look at anything, and you keep your head in the sand, and so we want to separate ourselves from you all because we're elite and we're better, and so therefore we want to control the money. And when you realize, like, it's lucky I've got God in my heart and like the universe, because otherwise that actually all makes a lot of sense. And I do feel different to all what you call the muggles, so you could see why people really do fall into that.
Well, it's it's no different than any good superhero movie. The villain a lot of times makes a lot of sense, and that's because sometimes they hide the truth in the villain, and they try to villainize the truth, which again, you got to have a sharp mind to be able to like untangle that knot, right? Like the Joker and Batman, when you listen to him, you're like, man, this guy
One of the
really,
best. Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like it's becomes crazy to really uncluster it. What's up, T? What were you gonna say?
Yeah, sorry, I'm like,
I know. Go for it. Go for it.
I'm just like, no. Remember that connection that we made a couple of days ago with the Marvel movie Thanos snapping his fingers and making people disappear?
Yeah.
Before that came up, Indy, we were actually talking about the pandemic,
Right.
and Chris was just like, just like Thanos in a way, that happened. That movie came out in 2019.
Wow. Yeah.
So
that's it right there.
It's crazy, yeah. But no, I really want to talk more about this because I'll be honest with you, Indy, like I'm learning more about demonology, and the very short time period in my life where I did consider myself a Christian is fighting against it. Like there's that fear inside of me, but I do want to learn more because of that. That's how I am.
Yep.
There's so much that like it's like a big rabbit hole, and I've actually connected with someone who considers herself, and I'm probably going to slaughter this name. I'll just call her a demonologist. I'll just say that, like surface level. Okay. And she's been telling me more about, the lesser keys of Solomon and how that originally you're not supposed to use demons to get the things that you want. You're supposed to ask just like you would angels. So, and I started with angel venerations at first. Like I even have the 7 seals of archangels on the back of my car right now. Wow. So it's like my protection. So anyways, I really do want to get deep into this stuff and, going into the cult, but I do feel like that's a whole other video, a whole other hour, maybe 2.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And I just want to say a few quick notes before we hop off. One, the angels is something I definitely want to touch base on.
Yes.
In the whole aspect of the concept of angel and demon and what they really are, at least from a cosmic point of view. And the second thing is, now this might push a few buttons, especially in the brown or black community, but there is a concept, and this is relevant only because of a couple of different things we've said throughout the podcast, but there's a mindset that black people or brown people are different than white people, as if we're from a different place or different space-time, or we have a different creator. I see a lot of people talking about Nibiru and Nibiru being the place where, brown people are coming from. Now, I've looked into this for years, and it's something that I was like, well, okay, where did black people come from? But when you really break it down and you go to the fundamentals and the basics of just observing what you see, if I look out in my yard, I'll see a yellow flower, and then I'll see a white flower. We have green flowers out there. So those flowers are all created from the earth. They didn't have a separate creator. So the color or the brown people on this planet are human. Yep. We're just, it's no different than the different flowers. It's all the human race. There's brown people, purple people in the cosmos. There's yellow people. So I just wanted to drop that in there. I know it might rub people the wrong way, but something that I've come to understand about my heritage is the skin for me, because I know that I'm not in this body. I'm literally speaking from an immersion pod, if you will. But my skin is not my identity. It's literally a projection of consciousness so that I can do this mission. But yeah, that could be a whole other podcast as well as race and how that plays into spirituality.
And why it's important to know what you are so that you can continue your spiritual journey, because it does matter.
Right.
Learning about your heritage, where you're from, where your family's from, your ancestors, things like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of Native American. There's a lot of, I looked at my family tree because I wanted to know, I wanted to figure out what my roots were on that level. And maybe I'm speaking on the trajectory of where that led me to. I didn't get to the beginning part of it.
I think regarding race, for me, you said, a lot of people question where do black people come from. Me personally, the question is actually where do white people come from, personally. because it's actually my understanding of ancient Kemet and where I was talking about earlier.
Yeah,
The
that's what it
first ever
was.
human bones being Lucy. If you know about Lucy, the first ever skull that was found, an ancient
Mhm.
African Kemet skull. But that would all.
Mhm.
This is you've expanded my mind tonight, Chris, to say that there was never actually there was never an Adam. There was never actually a Lucy.
No,
Maybe it was like
Adam
it's
is
actually
people.
something that it's always existed. It's never not. But one thing that I have resonated with, and up until now has no doubt made the most sense. As a Buddhist, I'm a Buddhist, and it's the only thing I label myself. But I am in my heart a bit of a follower of a man called Dr. Malachi Z. York. I'm not sure if you
Yes,
know who he is. Yeah.
I know his work very well. Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah. So he's a Nawabian, and he came about in like the 70s. I'm not sure if you know of him, Tanisha. If not, definitely check him out. He's in prison right now. He's 23, I believe, stories underground. Because they're for trying to say that he was having sex with minors and wasn't paying taxes on his books. He's one of the biggest authors on the planet, like unpublished books, thousands of books. Um, and he's like a leader of black people, basically. It's like, it's quite, and he's took everything to the top level. So he even became a Freemason to the top level. I don't know what that means, whether he had to have the noose around his neck, I don't know, but he also became like a top level this and that. And he took it, and he took Muslim and being Islamic to the top level, and then he teaches people how to reach the top of them, and then there's more. But what I'm saying is he believes and he teaches people in the idea that in a sense, white people were kind of spliced. Like they just appeared in history out of the blue about 6,000 years ago, and they're like well, we all are potentially like a hybrid of many different. We've got the reptilian glands and all of this, and so
Mhm.
yeah, it's like up until now, and this is really expanding me tonight. So I appreciate it because we're always
Mhm,
learning,
mhm.
and I resonate with everything that's been said. That was my kind of understanding. First of all, where do white people come from, and that we are kind of almost like an experiment or like a test tube that, like you said, the Anunnaki earlier, like we've kind of been created. But regardless of what's created the biology, the density of this, I am
Mhm.
actually what Chris
Mhm.
just said. I'm actually in a pod somewhere else. It's just like it's just where my soul chose to incarnate into this body, but the body has, I believe, has been deeply manipulated so that we aren't, the pineal gland isn't fully open. We aren't, all the chakras aren't fully aligned. They're all over the place and unbalanced. But we are now, as we go into the age of Aquarius, I believe, becoming more balanced. One thing I wanted to say, Chris, quickly, because I have quite a strong opinion on this now. What is your awareness or understanding of the Pleiades?
Oh man, Tanisha, how much time do we have? No, it's all right if we go a little over. So the new age version of how the Pleiades is very inaccurate. It's very love and lighty, and it's very oh, they're these invisible beings, but whenever you see them, they're white, and that's not it. I've had many incarnations as an Elohim or Elohai Pleiadian, and a lot of the information. Some of my star guides are Pleiadian. You have
Okay.
brown Pleiadian, but a lot of them are of lighter complexion. Um, they're definitely an influence in true spirituality. I'm not going to say New Age. I think a lot of people who are channeling the Pleiadians, that's more of a inversion, like we were talking about earlier.
I would say the ones channeling them on Instagram, doing all the and then that's saying like they're part of the Galactic Federation. I personally believe that they're that's the demonic side. It's the inverted version, evil side. Because you really, again, you
Well,
expanded my mind today, bro. Because up until you just said that, because I feel your energy, and so I know it's
mhm,
the truth.
mhm.
I was under the awareness to this point that the New Age Pallades channeling was
That's
it's such an insult, and it's
yes.
they're actually channeling dark demons. And this is what Dr. Malachi Z. York and all of the Nawabians say, and it just resonated with me quite a lot that the Pallades made some kind of contract with the Draco reptilian energies on this planet because
Mm.
they were actually a food source for something. So they created humans, and we're now the food source. And that's why there's so much cannibalism. That's why there's blood in our ketchup. That's why the McDonald's is so full of human meat, and the FDA keep on reporting it. We're really a cannibalistic race, and not knowing about that. And it's because we was created by these. But what you're now helping me to understand or understand is that just like humans, there's a dark and a light side to it. There's a yin and a yang. There's also there's
Of
the
course.
ladies that are really malevolent.
Right. Well, it's
Didn't, I'm
no. Go
sorry.
ahead, T. What was that?
Didn't the Anunnaki come from Pleiades?
So
No.
so this is why I love what I do so much, because this is like my jam, is the cosmos and different beings and all this stuff. But so the Anunnaki, starting there, they're getting into Pleiades, Pleiadians. The Anunnaki were never just, no, they're not one group. They were never, this is a part of, so you have the New Age conspiracy inversions, then you have the second most controlled topic on the planet, which is cosmos and UFOs. That's why you have gatekeepers of spirituality. You have gatekeepers of UFOlogy as well. Because again, it comes down to freedom of the mind. So the Anunnaki were not one group of beings that were reptilian. The Anunnaki simply means people from the heavens. That's it. People, not one group.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and so people from the heavens, shoot, you could be any kind of race of beings, right? But what's happened in modern times is, just like religion, they've taken stories from the past and mushed it together into one box and called it Anunnaki, and gave people the information and say, hey, this is it. I stargaze almost every single night, and I'm always in communication with the cosmos. Um, I'm literally in between realms almost at all times. To the point it's hard to, not hard, but it's easy for me to tap into the ethers, right? What that means is that the information that I'm getting isn't externalized for any kind of agenda. It's just because it's what I'm seeing and feeling, and then it's confirmed later on down the line. Now, back to Indigo was saying, if someone walked up to you, Indigo, and they said, okay, Indigo, the human race, are they good or bad? What would you say?
I'd say it's a hard one. I would say that we're the most we have the most potential for good and the most potential for bad. You know, literally, it's the 10 life states inherent within us, and we can display it at any point. But
Right,
I would say good inherently, right? I would like to believe.
inherently good, okay, but you know some people who are probably some a-holes and who would do some shady things, right?
Well,
Within the
unfortunately,
human.
the majority of people. It's interesting that I say good, but actually, the majority of people in my life have let me down, or have, or not revealing their highest potential. And I'm
But
guessing
they're
maybe
not
it's the same
bad
for you.
inherently.
They're not bad inherently. No.
Right.
They're just they just maybe it sounds they disappoint me.
Yes. And so what I'm getting at here is, if you say, are the Palladians good or bad, you can't say there's not one race that is all
Okay.
good,
Yeah.
one race that is all bad,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Right.
You know, so the Pleiadians specifically, and there's other beings. There's the Taigetans, there's the Swarus, there's the Elohai, there's the Christos races. There's so many different beings out there that do not get publicity in mainstream
Yeah.
spirituality
Yeah.
because it would actually set people free.
Yeah.
It's not fancy like the Arcturians. I love the Arcturians. I have an Arcturian counterpart, but my point here is the New Age movement is hijacking people's spiritual abilities and their inherent ability to connect with the source.
Yes.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And they're doing that with interviews like Terrence Howard, with gatekeepers of UFO movements, and with spirituality in general. So the only place where anything makes sense is within. You have to let it all go in order to really see and feel and to know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's really important, especially when you're someone who does a lot of research and you consider yourself a conspiracy theorist or a conspiracy fact, whatever you want to
I
say.
love that.
At some point, when you start learning so much, there is a moment where, and it's hard for me to explain, but there's a moment where fear kind of like encompasses you because you realize that nothing of what you believed is the truth. And if you don't have a connection with self, then that fear like really could scare the shit out of you. And I think we connected one time where you were saying when you were younger, when you were in the mirror and you would look at your hands and see your skin, you're like, oh my god, I'm brown. Oh my god, why do we have fingers? Oh my god. So
Yeah.
it's hard for me to explain, but basically you're looking at yourself like you're seeing yourself for the first time,
Yeah.
and that can cause a sort of psychosis.
Yes.
And it's a big buzzword on TikTok right now, spiritual psychosis.
Thank you for bringing that
So
up. That's so true.
yeah, it really is important to kind of like just it's important to get connected with your higher self and just I don't know.
Everything.
I don't know how to say it. Go ahead.
No. I'm gonna pick up right where you're going with that. Is everything is inherently false to a degree. If you think of it from this standpoint, the source is pure potential. It's literally it's no thing. So that means from that moment of becoming something, you're no longer just the source. So it's a It's in your imagination. You're imagining it as the source. You see what I'm saying? So that means
Mhm.
from that moment of pure potential of becoming, I don't care if it's an ant, a rock, a sun, a human, a woman, a man, brown, black, white, religion, Terrence, doesn't matter. You're the pure consciousness. But now you start to unfold and you solidify as a human being. Well, now there's a human being in the source. So the human being is the figment of imagination of the source. And then the human being creates a religion, which is a further fragmentation. And then it creates a Terrence Howard, which is a further, and then it creates a cabal, and then it creates a good and a bad. So this is why I say you are it. This is all just for show. At the end of the day, we leave these bodies. We might go back to our original stars, but even beyond that, we are always the source. That's what it all really comes down to, and that's where the power is. So from that angle, Tanisha, yes, everything is false.
Yeah, everything's a dream. Life is but a dream.
Life is but a dream.
I love that.
Wow, you guys are amazing. This has been really, really
Yeah.
powerful. So many things. I can't believe it's only been an hour 14. We like covered so many topics in such a short period of time. Well done.
There's so much that we can talk about, I think.
Yeah.
And Indigo, is there anything that you want to say to the viewers just to kind of sign off? Just something that you think they should know? I don't know. Anyone watching this?
My main message is something that I feel I've been handed on by the son of Marcus Garvey. I went on tour with him. I think I spoke about this with you last time, Chris. Dr. Julius Garvey. I had the honor of being his personal protector when he came on tour in the UK. I was by his side the entire time in the hotel, everything for a week.
Wow.
And he went on tour, and he wrote me a note on my arm, and I tattooed it on me. It says, "To Indigo, the future is yours to create. You're doing great work. Best wishes, Julius Garvey." And the future really is ours to create. We create it with our mind and our reality, and that's why they're trying to use so much negativity out there, so that we harbor the negativity within our consciousness and we keep repeating the negativity, and then it actually just keeps on coming out in society and in our environment and in our families and in our minds. One of the best ways I believe we can change the world and actually contribute much further than even what Gandhi and Malcolm X and all of these, because these icons are only out there to show us the potential, but we all are so important. I said this last time. Dick Gregory said, no one knows who invented the elevator, but the elevator changed the world. It doesn't matter who invented the elevator. So do your part and recognize how powerful just the smallest thing is. Simply be your authentic self. An apple isn't trying to be like an orange, and an orange isn't trying to be like a cherry, but all three of them are just delicious and unique and important and necessary. And if the bees disappear, the whole planet goes very quickly in the ecosystem, something so small. So your unique contribution to your family, to your local town, and then your nation, and then the entire world is please just put that ripple out into the universe of uniqueness and authenticity. Stop being a clone and a carbon copy of everyone else. Stop changing your body to try and fit in. If you're a woman, a real lion doesn't want silicone in your body. I'm telling you, because he wants your body to flow. He wants the chi to run around your body. He wants to have tantric sex with you. How can we have tantric sex when you've got silicone and plastic blocking the electricity of his penis running up through your chest? Like, these are like just start to just truly just accept that you are who you are and love yourself, and just be real and vulnerable and authentic. And that is the most and I'm telling you now, though, what I've just tasked you to do will be one of the hardest things, because you have to literally just peel away so many layers of things that actually aren't yours. It's what your parents told you to be. It's what your sex or your gender or your race or your color or your nation or your political party told you to think. It's what your celebrities are thinking. It's what TikTok is thinking. But to really just listen to your voice, discard everything else, and then act upon that, your whole world will change quickly. And I know for a fact I'm not acting upon my voice enough, because whenever I do, within moments, literally moments, the synchronicities are tenfold. So just have the courage to try and be authentic.
I love that. That was awesome. I'm just going to end it there. I'm just kidding.
Well,
Chris, do you want to say anything else?
do you want to say anything, Tanisha? You go first. That was beautiful, Indigo. Yeah, you go first. Or do you want to? Yeah, go for it.
I don't know. Like, I feel like right now, I think just kind of approaching life kind of like the way that I was talking about earlier, just keeping your ears open, keeping your eyes open, and just taking the information for what it is. It's just information. And then using your intuition to decide on whether that's something that you want to consider your truth or not. So
Yeah,
that's all I have to say.
I love that. And all I would add is allow your beliefs to be challenged. Allow your beliefs to be challenged. If you think something is oh, this is my belief. Well, okay, well, what's the opposite of that? Because when you're really firm in something, when something's really resonant within your heart, you'll be able to feel a safety, a steadfastness, a groundedness within it.
Yeah.
So let your beliefs be challenged. Get outside and stargaze. Put your feet into the earth. Stare at a flowing river. These things are some of the best things that I've ever done, that have brought me into the most euphoric moments of being. And it's not complicated. Nature provides everything. We are nature. Humans were not made to stay on Earth. And I will say our next level of advancement is amongst the stars, but from a grounded place. We can't skip over the Earth. We can't skip the foundation which we find our feet on, but we can start to think about coming back here as we learn how to traverse the cosmos. So this is going to take, I don't know if it happened in my lifetime, but it's something that I'm aspiring to, is help people truly become cosmonauts. But that starts with what Tanisha and Brother Indigo shared, and then we can get into the cosmos. All right. So, love you all.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, guys. This is amazing.
you.
Powerful
Thank
stuff.
you.